I've known Gary, I guess now for 46 years, not 65. We're in the second tier down. I'm J.R. Smith, and I'm here with my family, my wife Ruth, and our sons, Michael, Daniel, and Brian. We're here to celebrate the life and loves of Gary Shaw. We've known Jane and Gary since 1976, when Kristen and our oldest son, Michael, were only 18 months old. In those early years in Houston, we'd go sailing, we'd visit, we'd talk about kids, we'd cook out at each other's houses, and occasionally we would go camping. Okay. We enjoyed the outdoors, hiking, fishing, cooking, and just sitting by the campfire. And you know Gary, he always liked to look his best. Okay. So it was no surprise to see him early in the morning, standing next to the campsite electrical outlet with his hair blower. After a few years, Gary and the family relocated to California to pursue his career. Okay. Eventually, they moved back to Austin and they planted their Texas roots. And in October of 1986, we invited them to come to Dallas-Fort Worth and the State Fair. Okay. Little did we know that we had started a tradition which would last for the next 36 years. Our fair days begin at 9 a.m. when the gates open. We would amble our way over to Big Tex, where we got breakfast consisting of a Fletcher's corny dog and a beer for those of us who were of age. Our next stop would be the auto buildings. Gary always loved the car show. Okay. We looked at all kinds of cars, and we promised each other that one day, one of us would buy a car at the fair. Well, that's still a work in process. Although we came close with Daniel, he almost did. Well, then we would walk over to the Grand Palace to buy some fudge and visit the Vitamix booth. Okay. We'd sit down and we'd sample soup and smoothies. Afterwards, we'd walk out to the plaza in front of the Cotton Bowl, where Gary would get his turkey legs. At 2 o'clock, we were at the bird show. Then off to the exhibits, the Embarcadero, and the Marine Corps Square at 4 p.m., where we'd watch the Marine Corps Drum and Bugle Corps perform. We'd then take a short hike back to our parked cars, and that allowed us to open our coolers, make sandwiches for the kids, while we snacked on wine and cheese.
Of course.
And then we ate cookies before going back into the fair. And when we returned, we went straight for the Midway and all the lights. It was time to let the kids ride some rides, visit the haunted houses, and snack on fried foods. We threw rings at bottles. We tried to whack the frog and get him to land on a lily pad, which we were consistently good at. Okay. We tried to lift a Corona bottle using a ring and a stick to try to raise it upright. Most of the time that didn't work, even though we practiced at home before going to the fair. Then we would all watch Gary try to shoot out the star with a BB gun. Yeah. Most of the time that didn't work. But when it did, it was great. Okay. Regardless of our losings and winnings, the fact that we were all together enjoying each other's company made it a memorable day. About every 5 years or so, we would print up t-shirts to commemorate our event and remind us how the families had grown over the years. In those early years, we would open and close the fair. But now we know what we want to see. We know all the shortcuts to get there. And as the kids have gotten older, and especially the grandkids, we've shortened the fair day without losing any of the charm or excitement. Even when COVID hit, we would get together and have unfair day. We would come to Bedford, where we'd meet at our home. We made midway games and prizes for the winners, for the kids to play. And one year, Kristen even gave us a Vitamix presentation. We bought Fletcher corny dogs to eat. We cooked our own turkey legs, and that kept the spirit of the fair alive through all those rough years. And when I think of Gary, I can't help but think about our families and how we have grown and we have bonded over a silly tradition of attending and remembering the state fair for 36 straight years and counting. And over the years, each family has bought commemorative bricks to celebrate marriages and the grandkids' first fairs. We even had to correct spellings on the bricks that we had bought, such as Maria and Clara, which we don't have one. And each year we stop by to check on the bricks. And you can see them in rows 1340 and 13 through 1350 on the backside of the Grand Palace. Now, Jane, Chris, and Mel, I want you to know that we've bought a brick to immortalize Gary and his love of the fair. We should be able to see it next year, and hopefully it'll be spelled correctly. So in celebrating Gary, toasting Gary, I want to say that you're now resting in peace, and we will all forever remember that you shot the star out completely.